Hello, everybody. This is the two-parter of today, and I think this is gonna be one shot because I just feel like making it a one shot. All right, yeah, you heard the title. It's a bit weird, but I think it could work. Okay, bit of manga spoilers. Who am I kidding? Demon Slayer spoils basically everything. The fandom. All right, so we see Yoriichi almost cut Kokoshiba's head off, but then he dies. His soul leaves his body and he becomes a ghost. Instead of a person that arrives to heaven, he becomes a spirit. And then he sees Kokoshibo cut his body in half, with Yoriichi being very sad. Then he flies away, with Kokoshibo feeling his presence with him, but then he feels it leaving. Then he just brushes it off and leaves, with rage, boiling. And then Yoriichi, after a couple, I think like 10 years, he sees this he's a puppet master, starting to carve out his likeness until, bada bing, bada boom, Yoriichi's likeness with his 6 arms and that Yoriichi thing is then spawned. Yoriichi immediately knowing this works. He possesses the puppet right after the master is done, but the puppet master died, and then he sees the kid of the puppet master. I don't know if the puppet master died to a demon or the kid made it. I don't really know, but this is my story, so I don't care. So Yoriichi possesses the thing, and then since Yoriichi was so, his spirit was so powerful, it blew off a couple of the limbs until Yoriichi only had 2. Luckily, it's the on top limbs, and then he finds a blade uh, next to him. By next to him, I mean inside him. Like he saw the Woodmaster put his sword in him. He doesn't know how he got in possession of it, but he found it. So he took his sword out of him by like popping his head off, turning his face to him, and then taking his sword out. Then putting his head back on, locking it back on, and then taking his sword, putting it around his waist, and then walking towards the kid. The baby, actually. And picks the baby up and starts walking with him. Of course, demons try to get the kid, but Yoriichi keeps killing them. If you're wondering why he's being so protective of the kid, one, he's a good guy, and two, he always wanted a kid. Remember, his wife died during pregnancy, so depression. So Yoriichi just takes care of the kid, feeds the kid, until he becomes a swords master. Wants to make swords. So the kid puts a mask on, the pink one, and then Yoriichi just chills in that face for, until Tanjiro arrives. Obviously, it's the exact same story. This time, uh, instead of Tanjiro seeing the thing standing there with its face fucked him, it's Yoriichi in perfect condition, just a bit rusted and a bit old. And Muchiro tried to get him, but you just could not touch the kid or the puppet. It's like the puppet knew exactly what he was going to do before he could do it, and could see every movement of his body before he knew it. That's basically Yoriichi in a nutshell. Until Tanjiro arrives and then sees Yoriichi and then gets flashbacks, with Yoriichi then thinking that he kind of looks like his old from the Kamado family. He has my earrings. He kind of just assumed that what the puppet maid stole his earrings as well. But he realized that he didn't have them on purpose. He gave them to Tanjiro a couple 100 years back. So he decides to walk up to the boy and then use sign language. Yes, the puppet learned sign language. He had like 10 years. He had a couple years to learn it, so I think he could do it, especially since Yoriichi. And then Tanjiro doesn't know what he's saying. That is until the kid translates for Yoriichi, saying that the puppet is uh, is basically his parent and guardian from basically since he was a baby, in that this kid over it, this Hashira keeps trying to hit him. Tanjiro then puffs out his chest and starts yelling at him. And then he realizes he tried to. And then he looks towards the puppet, who has 0 damage on itself, which Tanjiro takes as like a bit thinking it's a demon. But as soon as Tanjiro tries cutting his neck, the the then Tanjiro asks if it's. Are you sure it's a puppet? Pretty sure. Sure. Then Yoriichi pulls his arm off, shows the inside of his arm, and Yoriichi Tanjiro was immediately convinced after he heard the pop instead of the slowing tear. And he popped it back on. Then he like flickers his fingers to like fix his joints. Then Yoriichi, then Tanjiro wants to know what he's saying, so he tries to learn sign language. Basically, the he doesn't know his name yet. Obviously, since Yoriichi can't breathe, he can't use any of his breathing styles because he can't breathe. Except for one technique. It's his guard stance, because you don't need to breathe in that one. When you try guard, basically he can reflect you and hit you with a massive flame strike. But it's legit the only move he still knows. So Yoriichi, instead of and well, gives Tanjiro his blade and takes his Tanjiro's blade that he was using for a sub for his than the one he was gonna make, which Tanjiro thanks the robot with the help of the kid. Don't know the kid's name yet. And so, yeah, after a bit, Yoriichi hears some noises, and since the kid's sleeping and he's definitely safe, he runs out and in the dead of night to see the Mitsuri Muchiro. Actually, not Muchiro. Actually, no, he sees Muchiro being attacked by fish demons, so he kills every single one of them for Muchiro, like as the good grandfather he is. So he and then he killed. Then he just lets Mitsuru unlock his demon mark, and then he picks up the. Then Mitsuru picks up, Upper Moon 5. Yeah, 5. Then he walks away to see Mitsuri, Tanjiro, and Nezuko fighting, you know, Upper Moon 4. So he runs in there and just waits until the demon just attacks this random puppet, which it does. But this is what Yuji was waiting for. So he guards him, then spins around the attack he just threw and takes out 2 of the clones. But then the clones respawn and then fuse into the rage one. And then, obviously he keeps using all the techniques, but Yoriichi keeps using his guard technique. And eventually eventually he sees Nezuko about to get set on fire, so he sprints towards her just to save her. But luckily, she was fireproof, sunproof, so good for them. Tanjiro took care of Upper Moon 4, though. With Upper Moon 4 taken down, Yoriichi actually brings the kid with him to the Hashira area. With Rengoku's dad, afterwards, seeing that it's Yoriichi again. He doesn't know who Yoriichi is, but he knows his name, and the Fire Hashira, which, spooks Rengoku's dad. So he tries attacking the puppet, which the puppet grabs his hand, nods at him, and then let go of his hand. And then Rengoku's dad immediately takes that as, yes, that is actually Yoriichi, just in a different body. Afterwards, he follows Michiro around, with the kid being protected by the Demon Slayer Corps. Afterwards, after a couple of missions, Mujiro, he chills with the kid. Until Muzan shows up. Muzan seeing the puppet, thinking it's just a toy trick, until the puppet stands in front of him with his blade taken out. Then Muzan gets a bit scared, but he just knows it's a puppet. Does until the puppet parries him and cuts all of his arms off. That's when the the Hashira leader, about to blow himself up, with Yoriichi grabbing the kid who was in the other room and then sprinting out of the area, right past Tanjiro. Right after that, he throws the kid away from the door that just opened, and then he gets teleported with Muchiro. Muchiro and him land at the same place to the Upper Moon State. Yeah, this is where the end of the story is coming. So Kokoshibo being a bit shocked that he sees his brother there, but he ignores it, thinking it's just a cheap trick. But of course, he also makes the same mistake as Muzang and trying to attack the puppet, which Yuichi was waiting for this day to fight his brother again, to take his head off. So eventually, Yomei and Sanemi show up, and they start. But before Mutsuro gets cut in half, Yoriichi stands in front of him. His sword breaks, by the way, just enough for, like, the tip of his sword. I don't know. Like the tip of his sword to be shattered. And him being cut in half. Luckily, the blast curved and just disintegrated before it hit Muchiro. So then Yoriichi puts his hand on the ground, uses the flame technique, and takes, um, breaking his hand, puppet hand in the process, shabbing his hand into the blade handle, and then just cutting Kokushibo's head off. Then Yoriichi falls to the ground, broken and shattered, with his eyes showing as well, after he broke his face against the ground. And then Yoriichi finally ascends to heaven, because that was his unfinished business. Well, that's the one shot. Hope you liked it. It was a bit weird to do because my last Demon Slayer what if didn't go so well, but I think this one went pretty well. Since Yoriichi pretty much would just chill and would just save people if he can. And yes, Muchiro survived in this version. Good for him. And Kokushibu was killed without any casualties, which makes the Muzan fight really easy. Okay, that's all I have to say. Peace, boys. Bye bye.